Everything you should know about money and investing. Today I'm going to talk about what I've learned the past 8 years about money and investing, and I'm going to talk about my personal experience and how I invest. And hopefully you will learn a lot from this and you will be on your way to financial prosperity. So I'll just make it quick and then I'll explain everything. I have a Vanguard account and I have an Acorns account. So with Acorns, you pay like $3 a month and it automatically invests. It has a thing where if you want to be focused on growth, it'll automatically invest based on that, and then it buys, index funds based on that, and you'll probably end up making around long-term average 8% per year on that. And what Acorns does is if you hook up all your accounts to it, you can make it so it rounds up to the nearest dollar. So if you spend $1.20, it'll round up 80 cents. And then if it gets to like $5, then it'll automatically deposit that into your Acorns account. So if you're spending a lot of money one month, you're going to have a lot more money in your investing. And it's a lot better than, like for instance, a lot of people use credit cards and then be like, well, I get 2% cash back, which is great. But statistically speaking, you'll spend more money on credit cards. And then if you go into credit card debt, which a lot of us do, and it's hard to get out of, you're spending 30% in interest. So that 2% costs you 28%. And Vanguard, this is how I invest. And most of my investing is from Warren Buffett. I get most of my information from Warren Buffett because he's the best investor on the history of the planet. He's worth over $100 billion. So that's who I learn most of my stuff from. So I invest in the S&P 500. It's Vanguard's VOO. And long-term average, the past 110 years, you're going to make around 9% per year on your money. And then I own VMFXX, which is treasury bonds. So the government goes out in the marketplace and is like, okay, we're going to borrow money and to fund the government. And then what happens is then the federal government pays you, say, 4.5% on that money. So if you have $5,000 in VMFXX, you're going to make, I think right now you're making 4.5% on that money. I use that for savings, right? So that's where if I need to get a hold of money within the next couple of weeks, within the next couple of months, within the next year, that's where I put my money. But then long-term investing is I put the rest into the S&P 500. So I have everything automated. $250 a week goes in the S&P 500, and the rest goes into VMFXX. So the way I do it is I'm saving for 6 months. So you want to have a 6 months savings. And then the other thing is what I'm saving towards now is, so you want to have 6 months savings. Whatever your expenses is for 6 months, you want to save that as an emergency. And then like I have a health insurance. So my health insurance is $100 a month, but I have, I pay $8,500 up to $8,500 deductible. So if I get in a really bad accident, I have to pay up to a maximum of $8,500 to be in the hospital. So then I'm going to save an extra $8,500 in case, that happens. So you want to be that very secure. This is how you put yourself in a good position where you never have to worry about money. So 6 months, and then, I have emergency fund on top of that 6 months for, like my medical. And then the other thing is I save 50% of everything I make. So I cut my expenses to the point where I save 50% of everything I make. So the number one thing is paying yourself. I used to hear all the time, pay yourself first. And I'm like, I don't understand what that means. But whatever your paycheck is, 15% of everything you make should go directly into investing. And that's pretty much what, a financial advisor would recommend. So 15% of everything you make would go, and it's supposed to be long-term, right? And if you can't do 15%, do 10%. If you can't do 10% and you're really struggling, do $20 a week. All you need is $20 a week. It's all about habit. It's all about starting. Because if you don't start, you're never going to start. So, and the other thing is, if you're not investing, you're going to be poor your whole life. That's just a fact. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but it's the truth. And there's a system in place and things work a certain way. And once you understand that, then you don't have to worry about money ever again, for the most part. And that's what I do. I know as long as I put away what I'm putting away, and I just know in the future that I'm going to be well off and I'm going to be making money. Because you know how you hear the rich get rich and the poor get poor? That's because the rich invest. The rich own businesses, right? The poor, for the most part, they consume. They're consumers. They don't invest. So when you're seeing online saying, oh, the rich just gained an extra 50% in the past 2 years. Well, so did I. So did I, because I'm investing. This year alone, the S&P gained 30%. I'm sure I think it's around 30%. So I gained 30% in wealth by investing. Yeah, I'm not a multi-millionaire, but that's how you get to that point. The reason why I use Vanguard is because Jack Bogle is the founder of Vanguard. And what he did is, back in the day, he started index funds because he found out that Wall Street was screwing everybody. You know, they were charging top dollar to invest their money when all you need is an index fund. And so he undercut Wall Street. Now Wall Street is forced to go with Vanguard and compete with Vanguard. And so what the S&P 500 is, which is why Warren Buffett even says, if I was a normal investor, I would just invest in the S&P 500. 90% of my wealth, he says, would be in the S&P 500. And the rest would be in treasuries. So the reason that is the S&P 500 is the top 500 companies in the entire US, which means they're the top companies in the entire world. And they're so large, they are international, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, you want to have international exposure, which does not do as good as the S&P, but the S&P is so big it is international, and a lot of people don't realize that. So, and long-term average, the past 110 years, you've made 9% per year on your money. The average inflation rate is around 3%. So you're making 6% average return after inflation. And then if the S&P, let's say that a company's not doing good in the S&P 500, you're like, well, what if a company's not doing that good? Well, they replace it. So they replace it. So that's why you're always going to be doing amazing in the S&P. So then that's an index fund. And it cost me 0.03%. That's what they charge. It's nothing. Investing's very simple, okay? It's very simple. That's literally all I invested is VMFXX, which is treasury bonds, and then the S&P 500. That is literally all I invest in. That's it. And it's super simple. By the way, I'm not a financial advisor, and I always recommend, doing your own research. Financial advisors charge around 1 to 1.5% of the value of your investments. So throughout a lifetime of, say, 30 years, it's going to cost you 30% of your entire portfolio to have a financial advisor, which is a lot of money. That's why I personally don't have a financial advisor. I do know a lot of financial advisors, and what I asked them one day is, I'm like, well, you guys pretty much invest in index funds. And don't get me wrong, they're very educated and they know what to invest in. But for the most part, it's index funds. You just pick a couple index funds and it's just super simple, but yet I'm paying 1.5%. So some of them do charge by the hour. I prefer to see someone by the hour if I was you. But the reason why, you just get more access to them when you're paying them, 1 to 1.5%. And the thing was, financial advisors, I asked them, well, what do you provide value, which is why I would give my money to you? And one of my friends is like, well, it's behavior, right? Like, I'm the reason why I convince people to not pull out of the market. So the market goes down, people freak out. They take all their money out, they lose all that money, and then they screw themselves. So just that alone is worth it for a lot of people, because your financial advisor is like talking you off the ledge, like, dude, don't do it, I'm telling you. And it's not because, they're making a shit ton of money off you too, but it's because if you pull out of the market, you're going to lose money. Like, that is a fact. If you pull out of the market, you will lose money. Even if you're like, it's at the top, I'm going to pull all my money out because I don't trust it. That's what everybody does. When the market's down, I love when the market's down. I'm buying when the market's down. I put an extra 50, whenever the market's down, like a couple percent, I throw an extra $50 in there because it could go down more. And the main thing with investing is dollar cost average, right? So every week I put $250 in the market, and it's dollar cost average. So you're buying at the height and you're buying at the low, and dollar cost average because you can never time the market, never try to time the market. Anyone who tries to tell you they can time the market is a liar, and they're just trying to get your money. Investing is very simple. They just don't want you to know that because everybody wants your money. So it's just that simple. S&P 500, VMFXX, which is treasury yields, treasury bonds. Because what Buffett says is the federal government only wants you to make 0.5% after they pay you. So if inflation's 3%, usually you'll end up making 3.5% on a Fed funds rate. So you only make 0.5%. So it's like, yeah, it's guaranteed money because it's guaranteed by the full faith of the U.S. government, but you're only making 0.5%. But it's very secure, which is why, but you're only making 0.5%. But the S&P, this is where we go into behavior, right? So with the S&P, you can never time the market. So the S&P will be up, it'll be down, it'll be sideways. So you'll have 1 year when it might be down 20% 1 year. And then 1 year it'll go up 30%. But long term, when you see, the market's at the very height, at some point it'll be higher than it is now, because that's what happens. And I'll explain why that happens. That's because, so the way money works is your dollars lose value every single year because it's fiat currency. It's not real hard money. Like gold is real hard money, right? That's why gold goes up when the dollar goes down. So we live in a fiat system. The entire world's fiat right now. Like we were ticking off the gold standard in the 70s. So inflation's been pretty crazy since then. And governments like to spend money. And the hidden tax is inflation. So every single year, the government spends more and more money. And then your inflation goes up higher, which is actually a tax on you. And so that tax might be that 1 year, I think 2019 was like, or 2021 was like, I don't know, 9% inflation we had at one point. So you just lost 9% purchasing power in 1 year. But if you were in the market, you would have gained money on that because the market goes up when you have inflation like that, because people, all the rich people, or you don't even have to be rich, most people are in the market because they have 401ks. They have to put their money goes up because of that. Because people are like, hey, the rich people are like, our money is eroding. We're losing value every single day. So we're going to put money in the market and we're going to gain value over time. Because that's how you hedge against inflation. You invest money. And that's how money works. And the past 5,000 years, every single fiat currency has went to zero. So the second you get paper money, it's just paper, right? Second you get paper money, you pay your bills. Then what's left from that, well, you want to pay yourself first, but you pay your bills, then what's left from that, you invest it. And then that will make you 9% a year over time. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you want me to talk more about the subject or any other subject you want me to talk about, I would appreciate you guys to comment that in the comment section. And until next time, I'll see you later.